In my teaching days, as a student teacher, I always remember the advice that was given to me by one of my lecturers that if we're going to deepen and extend the assessment, we need to be able to look at working out assessment for learning and then assessment of learning. And as a subject teacher, conventional assessment, do we have to abandon it for ESD? I'm really strongly of the opinion that we don't, because the acquisition and finding out of knowledge and participation and working out of knowledge all requires assessment. And the assessment of outcomes is what we are ultimately concerned with, but the assessment that produces the outcomes is critically important, from the startup story through to the students raising questions for finding out more, to the reviewing of concerns to work out solutions, to the application of these in trying out, and then reflection. The continuous assessment is really important, and I always have ESD focused on the higher order thinking skills, because in continuous and formal assessment, one of the key things is getting the assessment organized before and through your teaching, so that the students know and remember what they've learned from the subject and what they've learned from each other, and then they're able to apply that knowledge with understanding, and then they're able to analyze, evaluate, and innovate. And this is where ESD comes in. So we don't have to abandon assessment. We have to actually enhance assessment if we're going to be including ESD in our work. And tests and exams remain, along with translation and practical tasks, and ultimately the projects and assessment of the case studies that the students undertake. So the key thing is not to try to do everything all the time, but to try to plan the assessment for particular learning processes. And we're very lucky that there has been some recent work done on assessing significant learning, particularly in the SADC region of Southern Africa. And drawing on Dee Fink's work out of the United States, it was possible to look at this significant learning assessment around foundational knowledge, around the application of knowledge, through the integration of knowledge, into how does the knowledge relate to the human and ecological dimensions, what about the ethics of Ubuntu and caring, and finally about learning how to learn. So their work has been particularly important for adding in a new dimension or expanding the conventional assessment. And what we were able to conclude is, as teachers, we need to have both. You know, conventional assessment is still relevant and can be used to assess the higher order thinking skills activated through ESD, as well as the learning that we would normally assess for in a classroom setting. An assessment can be expanded to include the review of significant learning actions and more sustainable dispositions through the assessment of significant learning. And this work, you can read more about it by reading the Shumba Mandikonza and Lotse Sitka work that has been done on assessment in Southern Africa. And of course, there's a lot of work that you can explore in terms of deepening the assessment of ESD, for ESD, and through ESD that is involved in the inclusion of ESD in our subject teaching.